It's Sunday, the 4th of March, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm just starting up my protest against Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And we see former leader of the board of the Unitarian Church of Montreal coming in here. I'm trying to remember her name. Marlowe something or other. Anyway, I was more or less prevented from protesting in 2018 up until now, and even the latter part of 2017, because I was arrested for the alleged criminal harassment of Montreal Unitarian clergy abuse enabler Sue Montgomery. I went to a Montreal City Council meeting on December 11th to ask a question, and to my surprise, I was arrested on the spot by the Groupe Intervention police that handle security at Montreal City Hall. It seems that what happened is that on December 5th of 2017, Sue Montgomery filed a complaint with the SPVM against me as a result of a chance encounter that we had, not so far from here actually, just a little further along on the Maisonneuve Boulevard, where the second set of lights is. I was standing at the corner waiting for a bus and talking to a friend of my brother, and interestingly enough, I was actually talking to him specifically about Sue Montgomery's complicity in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse cover-up efforts, and the fact that she'd recently been elected as the mayor of Côte-des-Neiges, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, and had even more recently been appointed as the deputy mayor of Montreal by Valérie Plante. So I was basically talking specifically about Sue Montgomery and her unethical conduct when she walked down Marlowe Street, and so I saw her and I said, "Oh, we're just talking about you, And she walked by, she didn't say a word, and she stopped because there was a traffic light. She couldn't cross the road, so she had her back to us, and so I just spoke up and I said something to the effect that, reminding her that she was still accusing me of libel, and falsely so, in my opinion. It certainly hasn't been proven in court, and that she should withdraw that false accusation and make amends. That's basically all I said. I just noted the fact that it was a funny coincidence that she came by just when we were talking about her, and then took the opportunity of her being there to remind her that she had an outstanding false libel accusation against me that I expected her to withdraw, and basically apologize for. So as a result of that encounter, Sue Montgomery went running to the police and claimed to be very afraid of me, which is a bit ridiculous. Claimed to fear for her personal safety just because there'd been a chance encounter where I had reminded her she was falsely accusing me of libel. So that's it. So I showed up at Montreal City Hall on the okay, got a bit of wind going here. On the 11th, 6 days later, not being aware of this complaint against me, and I didn't hear a word from the SPVM. They could have called me and asked me about what happened, get my side of the story, but that didn't happen prior to going to the City Council meeting on December 11th, and basically I was arrested. I saw Sue Montgomery speaking with the security guards and the police, and I thought, knowing what I know about Sue, she was probably trying to convince them to expel me, you know, before I could ask a question that would reflect on her, you know, moral and ethical lapses and her dearth of integrity. So I expected that they might possibly, on some spurious grounds, have me expelled from City Hall, so I was not able to ask Sue a question. In fact, my question wasn't going to be for Sue that night. My question was actually going to be for Valerie Plante, and it was going to be about how I can go about filing an ethics complaint against Sue Montgomery with either Projet Montreal or the City of Montreal, or both for that matter. I basically wanted to find out if Projet Montreal had its own, you know, policies and procedures for dealing with ethics complaints against its members, and also, you know, what policies and procedures the City of Montreal might have. So that was what my question was going to be, but I never got to ask it because I was arrested. And I should say that the police officers who arrested me, the members of the group Intervention, and most particularly M.M. Roy, were very professional, very polite, very respectful, courteous. Basically, you know, I was completely cooperative because there's no point, you know, resisting arrest. I don't think in most cases just makes it harder for the police and makes it harder for you. So I was totally cooperative, but they were excellent, really, and I have no complaints whatsoever about how the group Intervention handled my arrest. They handled it in a very professional manner that was respectful of me. I do have a bit of a beef with the sergeant detective who essentially thought it would be a good idea to have me arrested for criminal harassment when I've never made the slightest threat against Sue Montgomery's personal safety. Criminal harassment is essentially harassment that arising out of, you know, people threatening the safety of someone else. It's not just, you know, criticism and this and that. You know, you basically, the person, you know, who's the alleged victim really has to have reasonable fears for their personal safety. And generally that's interpreted as safety in the sense of, you know, fearing for a physical attack on them of some kind or another. So I am quite confident that the SPVM sergeant detective, who pretty well had to have ordered my arrest, had no real grounds to do that. The only reason my arrest was ordered was because Sue Montgomery is a politician. If she had just been an ordinary citizen and had filed the same complaint with the police, they would have probably just said to her, well, sorry, but he's not threatening you, so you know, we can't arrest him for criminal harassment. But yeah, Sue pulled her weight as a politician, I don't doubt it, and was able to persuade the SPVM to have me arrested. And in order to be released, I had to sign conditions. And the conditions that I was presented with, you know, by the sergeant detective at the Centre Opérationnel West, included a line which looked like it prohibited me from being anywhere near the Unitarian Church of Montreal, or being at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. So that basically caused me to, you know, cease and desist for a while, protesting outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. When sometime later, some weeks later actually, I was able to show the conditions to a couple of lawyers who were considering representing me. I was told that in fact the area where the Unitarian Church of Montreal had been written into the police report was actually an exception. In other words, you know, where it had been written, it was almost, you know, strictly speaking, it was saying that I could protest at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. It was an exception to the other conditions. However, they felt, and I agree with them, that this was a mistake made by the police, you know, that you know, they did intend to prohibit me from protesting at the Unitarian Church of Montreal, but that they wrote the Unitarian Church of Montreal into the wrong section of the conditions form. Nevertheless, at my initial court appearance on January 19th, where I was not represented by a lawyer, I did ask the judge to modify the conditions in such a way that it would not infringe on my rights to engage in peaceful public protest and so on. I made it clear that as far as I was concerned, at least in part, the conditions were infringing on my Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guaranteed right to engage in peaceful public protest and to otherwise participate in the democratic protests, such as by going to city council meetings and asking questions and so on. So the judge basically said he couldn't do that, which I think was a mistake. I think he could have. And the prosecutor in any case objected and refused to any kind of modification of the conditions. So it was only on February 19th, a month later, during my second appearance, which was to set a court date for a trial or to, you know, have everything drop, that the lawyer representing me, who I had hired in the interim, was able to persuade the Crown prosecutor to modify the conditions in such a way that the Unitarian Church of Montreal was taken right out of them. And I was also expressly allowed to go to public meetings at Montreal City Council and NDG City Council, that is Côte-des-Neiges, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce Borough City Council meetings. I'm expressly allowed to go and ask questions. So basically got the conditions clarified and reduced on the 19th of February. But the following Sunday, I actually basically started heading this way. But the weather was pretty bad, and there were various other reasons that it was probably best not to restart my protest that day, which I believe would have been the 26th of, no, not 26th, let's see, anyway, 25th, I guess, of February. In any case, I decided to just can it and not protest that day, so this was the next opportunity to restart my protest, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm not sure how long we're gonna protest today, however, because for various reasons I may keep it shorter rather than longer. So yeah, I just wanted to narrate that a bit. And then, you know, it's funny because here we got this sign here saying Unitarian Universalist liars bear false witness against me. It's been in existence for quite some time, and it's very truthful. Quite a number of Unitarian Universalists do lie about me, and they do so in a way that that effectively bears false witness against me. They're basically claiming, you know, that I'm saying and doing things that I'm not doing. And it seems that Sue Montgomery, in her police report, 5-page saga of a police report, actually spouted a fair bit of bullshit. Now, it's possible she might actually believe some of it, but effectively what happened is Sue Montgomery, in her complaint to the police, included statements about me that do not arise out of her own personal experience of me. because she's talking about things that happened even before she joined the Unitarian Church of Montreal. So essentially what she did is she made claims in her police report about me, about the earliest stages of my protest and so on, that are false, that are almost certainly bullshit fed to her by Montreal Unitarians. So, at least in terms of those things, I can't necessarily accuse her of being an outright liar, because she may actually believe the bullshit that was fed to her by Montreal Unitarians, but nonetheless, she wrote down falsehoods in her police report. So that is of some interest to me, because it's illegal to make false reports to the police. So the question is as well, what constitutes a false report? Like, if the information's false but not necessarily an outright lie because the person believed it, is that a false report to the police or not? But I'm certainly looking into the possibility of having Sue Montgomery charged with making a false report to the police. We'll see what comes of that. In the meantime, I'm allowed to resume my protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, which I'm doing. And I'm also allowed to go to city council meetings and ask questions. So I will be doing that. I was already at a Public Security Commission meeting. Actually, on the 27th of February, there was a court date to set the trial date, and following that, in the afternoon, there was a meeting in the afternoon of the Public Security Commission, like literally just